We've got our first candid conversation, and it's bringing all the vibes. We're talking books, music, and DJing with our first guest, DarLuz the DJ. Let's get into it. Enjoy the show. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Authentic Vibrations. It's Terrell, aka The Realist, and as always, you know we're keeping the vibes high and the energy authentic. And in today's episode, we're talking to someone who truly embodies that spirit. And y'all, this is an extra special episode because we've got our first candid conversation with our featured guest who's going to be bringing the vibes. Our guest is also someone who I think truly shows up in authenticity. Not only are they a self-published author and hit-making DJ, but they're a force to be reckoned with, y'all. So stay tuned for sure. A true visionary when it comes to curating energy through music. Their presence and energy is always a vibe. And they've been a catalyst for me living my life in authentic vibrations. Vibe Tribe, let's welcome someone near and dear to me, my lovely wife and soul partner in this journey called life, Delisa, aka D, aka DarLuz the DJ. Let's welcome in DarLuz today, y'all.
Last night a DJ saved my life.
Okay, here we go.
Last night a DJ saved my life.
DarLuz.
Yes,
I'm so excited you could join us here today.
I am too.
As mentioned, you've been such a huge influence in my life. And I know our listeners are going to be excited and going to get so much out of this conversation. If you even remotely know me, then you know her.
Yeah.
We're a package deal. We come together, y'all. I'm excited, though, that you get to be my first guest. As mentioned, she's been such a catalyst for me in my own journey, and particularly in this endeavor, this podcast journey. She encouraged me to start this endeavor. So again, great opportunity to have you as my first guest since you were the one that encouraged all of this. So thank you for joining. Fun fact, y'all, she not only encouraged this endeavor, but she actually brought my podcast equipment. Like, how like kismet is this? Is it perfect?
We're getting ready to upgrade.
We are. I think it's time for upgrade. I know it's only been a couple episodes, but we're running into some things that I think are definitely going to require me to elevate. So we're going to continue to elevate. So, all right. So I'd love to start the conversation just by talking a little bit about your journey.
Okay.
Some of you might know DarLuz, you might know D, you might know Lisa, right? Not everybody knows Lisa, but you might know something about DarLuz already. But again, this is a great opportunity to learn even more, right? And finding out who is Delisa, who's D, who's DarLuz.
Mm-hmm.
What's your story?
Oh.
I know, very broad, but
Oh.
I want to see where she takes that, y'all, right? So very broad, very vague, but what's your story? What do you want to tell us about yourself?
I got a book for that.
She has a book. I told y'all she was a self-published author. Play with it.
Not to choose. I got a book for that. My story. Telling my story would take a long time.
Okay, give us some
So
clip
I'm gonna
notes.
give you just some clip notes.
I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. We can work with the clip notes.
Yeah. So as you were saying, some people know DarLuz, some people know Delisa, some people know Lisa, and some people know D. I consider DarLuz to be the creative. Okay. So the books, the music, the art, the passion. I consider Lisa to be chilling with the family, chilling with close relatives. Just uninhibited, goofy, silly, love nature, love everything.
Animals. Y'all, we have 4 dogs. And would have more. We would have a horse
And a goat.
if I let her have her way.
I take care of it. But yeah, I think the one thing that kind of ties all of them together, DeLisa, DarLuz, Lisa, is music. Because I could separate different traits and different characteristics about all those names, but music and love is going to be under every single name.
I could agree with that, y'all. And just knowing you for the last, oh my gosh, almost 10 years of my life. 10 years.
10 years.
I can definitely attest to that. Music is something that I think drew us. We found a common passion, I think, in music, and we communicated through music for a lot of the beginning stages of our relationship. But also just that love. I think that love definitely is at the core of everything that you do.
So, yeah. If I can't do it with love, I don't want to do it. Unless I absolutely have to do it, then it's car repairs. But at the same time, work, but if you love your income, you love being healthy, you love going through life easily, you do those things. So you still love.
Yeah. What a great perspective, right? To think about all those things, even the things that you feel forced to do in that moment. If we change our viewpoint, right? If we change our perspective and mindset on how we view those things and start viewing them with love, it makes it easier to kind of navigate those things. I like that.
I think so.
I like that mindset and that attitude. So, Lisa, DarLuz, what should I call you on this? I don't know. It's confusing, y'all. There's so many of her. I'm going to call her what I call her, though. Lisa, DarLuz for y'all. Remember that. Would you say that you've always lived in your truth? Have you always been this authentic version of yourself?
Yes. That's easy for me. Even as a kid, as a child, whenever I would try to do something that I felt was just going along with what should be done or the norm, or trying to, when you're young, you want to please your parents, you want to please your peers. It never sat right with me. And I didn't like the feeling. I just said, I'm not going to do that.
She was a defiant kid, y'all. I don't know if that was telling us.
So I was a good kid, but I always wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I don't mean that as in, I'm going to go break this, or I'm going to go destroy this, or steal this. I mean, like, when my mom would try to get me dressed, I didn't want to wear a dress. I wanted to wear my Ninja Turtle shirt. And it was like, okay, I know when I go to church, I have to wear a dress, but everything else, when I wanted something, I spoke it. I wasn't quiet about it.
Yeah. And I love that, right? I think we all need to understand that our voice is powerful. And even as a child who wants to wear that Ninja Turtle t-shirt, that means something. That shows, I think, an element of who we are. We're speaking our truth. We're living to live our authentic vibration in that moment. But of course, we don't listen to children the way that maybe we should, right? So I think this is a great example of someone that lived their truth. They spoke their truth, even as a child. Would you say that there was any particular moments that was a catalyst for making you speak those truths, or making you live in those authentic vibrations?
Absolutely. Just coming out and just knowing all my life that I was gay or queer or lesbian or whatever you want to call it. Once I got to the teenage years, and you're supposed to go to homecoming with the guy, you're supposed to go to prom with this guy, you're supposed to have a crush on this guy, you're supposed to wear this person's varsity jacket. I wasn't feeling it. And I was at a point in my life where I felt like, I'm not going to pretend just so everyone else could be comfortable or happy. Or in my case, with my family, just so they won't be worried about me going to hell, because I knew I had my own belief system. And like I said, just as a child, I've never been able to try to be something that I'm not, just to be something else. So I think when I was 14, and I was actually outed in school, instead of fighting it and ignoring it, I just said, yeah, I am. When the word spread and the family started asking, there was no denying. It was like, yes, I am.
Are y'all catching this? So you were outed?
I was outed, yeah.
In school?
Yeah.
I mean, we can't unpackage that here today, but what can you give us? Can you give us just a little tidbit about how that maybe shifted your perspective and how you were living your life in authentic vibration?
Yeah, so I had a girlfriend, my first girlfriend, my first love. There was somebody special to me. So when I was outed, I kept thinking to myself, for me to say, no, I'm not, and try to deny it, now I'm denying that person. I feel like every time it's not just your world. You live in your life, but everything we do has a consequence on the people that we love or the people that are around us. So it really made me feel like, what if she heard at her school that I was somewhere denying her? How would she feel about that? So I had to take that into consideration, like make friends and family happy, make somebody that I love happy, make me happy. So at that point I said, it's already a done deal. Mm-hmm. I'm not a liar. I'm not going to lie and say that's not true. So I just said, yeah, I am. Duh. It's like, it was so clear. I'm not girly. I've never been girly. I've never been in high school talking about the boys. Only time I was interested with the boys was when I was playing basketball. So to me, it's kind of like, you didn't know, really? Stop it.
I love that. You're really giving us your authentic vibe. So I appreciate you sharing your story, or at least a little bit of your story. If you want to check out the rest of it, we'll mention where you can find that
book for that
a little bit later in the conversation. But I know it's not always easy to wear those vulnerabilities, right? And live in a way that allows others to really see who we are. When you reflect on your life and making those decisions to show up in authenticity as your true self, how would you say that's impacted your life and your relationships? So, thinking about your family, like you mentioned your family, you mentioned this girlfriend at the time, your friends even. How were they impacted by you showing up in authenticity in that way?
Well, I would hope that they were inspired. This is interesting because my best friends were so supportive when I did come out that there wasn't a whole bunch of questions. It was just kind of like, who cares? Let's go to the mall type of thing. But so it's always interesting to wonder how somebody is affected by that. But I feel like once that happened, they knew that I was a person who was real. So they could come to me being real, because who am I to judge you? I'm pouring out myself. So I think I noticed that a lot of people, and my friends and family, they'll flock to me in their times of need, or when they feel like they just can't talk to somebody else about a situation because they don't even know the root of who they really are to even help them deal with the situation. So I hope that's the case.
Okay, so we'll shout out to those best friends.
To the twins.
The twins, Stacy and Tracy, if you're listening. What up, though, from Authentic Vibration? This is Michigander is like
day. What up, yo?
Anyway, so who else was impacted by that? I'm sure it wasn't just your friends. And I love, though, that your friends were so supportive. They likely already knew who you were, right? Those closest to us, especially when we're young, when we have those close friends, right? They already know those deep, dark secrets that we're not telling anyone. But how did your family show up in those moments? Were they impacted in some way by you showing up and living that truth?
Yeah, some showed up and some disappeared. That caused a lot of growth, a lot of emotional growth. My mom, she didn't take it well. I thought she would. So I thought my mom would be so welcoming, and I thought my mom knew anyway, But a lot of times parents know, but they just, until they say it, I can't just assume. But because she was so fond of RuPaul at the time and admired what he did, I just figured like it wouldn't be a big deal. I figured, you're like, girl, I already knew that, and she was aware of the culture, but it wasn't. It was very hard for her because her mother, my grandma, and her family on my mom's side is so religious. And it's not so much of a just, you're wrong. And then the Bible says it's I'm nervous for you to go to hell. They are very concerned about me going to hell. So I kind of distanced myself. I actually moved out here to Florida. And I just started my adult life away because it pulled at me because I don't like my family being in pain. And sometimes, you feel like you have a need to explain things to people till they get it. And I didn't want to have to do that. I didn't have the energy. I had a long conversation with my grandmother, who was a minister. And usually the grandkids and family, they kind of say, okay, yes, ma'am. They might not agree with it. They might not take all the advice, but they'll say, okay, and they'll kind of leave. I couldn't do it. I stood up to her. I was 14 and she had found out in the neighborhood and she read scripture and we had a conversation about it. And finally at the end of the conversation, she said, Delisa, I don't understand. I've gone through all the scripture. I've been praying and God kept telling me to call you over here for a reason. And I just told her, maybe this time it was something for you to learn. And we have not talked about it since then. She might send mail here or there with scripture, but we cool too. Love you, Grand. But it was just one of those things where I wouldn't back down. And by doing that, there was nothing in life that could be thrown at me that would make me back down. Because I stood up to my grandmother.
I love that, y'all. It's hard to stand up to the elders of the family, especially when they've been an impact in your life in some way and you have that relationship with them. So I can definitely relate to that, right? Not wanting to necessarily disappoint your family, but also wanting to live your truth, wanting to show up as your authentic self. And so I commend you for that.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you came out when you did, because now I have this lovely wife here, y'all, as you can see. So, but would you say that living your truth somehow influenced others to feel that they could show up and be who they were with you? I know you mentioned your friends, the twins, felt more comfortable, I think, showing up and being who they were with you and sharing in community with you. But what about the rest of your family? What about any others that were part of your journey?
I really hope so. Honestly, I'd love to say yes. Everyone was positively affected. Everyone showed up and lived their truth. But one of the things that I've noticed, like all my life, is that I'm so authentic to myself and what I believe and, right and wrong and just love. Sometimes it can push some people away, some energies away. It's our energy. And I noticed that it can push some energy away. Some people that you think are friends, they don't want to hear you talk the real. They don't want to hear you say, don't throw that litter off the window. This is our earth. This is our environment. We love our environment. We love going to the beach, being there, swimming in the water. Don't do that. They don't want to hear that. Or they don't want to hear, like, maybe you shouldn't smoke that so much and drink that so much while you're going through this right now. Maybe you should sit down and be quiet and journal. Everybody don't want to hear that. Some people just want to fuss, cuss, talk about people. They want you to join in. They want you to agree with them. They want you to take sides. So, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. If I'm living my authentic self, my authentic truth, and it pushes some people away, that's okay. That's okay. You can't ride this way with me. It's okay.
Yeah. I used to hear, and I don't know who originally said this, but not everyone can go on the journey with you of life. Not everyone is going into that next season with you. I think that it's true when we hear people say that, there's a reason, there's a season, and unfortunately, not everyone is going to be part of every season with you. So I think it's important to know that, to realize that even amongst family, and that can be hard pill to swallow sometimes, but I think it's just the reality.
Yeah, certain phases of your life, you have certain people. Sometimes they leave, sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't come back. Some people come in and phase your life that's like, you so far in life, it's kind of like, what? I get this new friendship from? But you take it. So, yeah, I agree.
I love that. So when I met DarLuz, I was at a pivotal moment in my own life, and I think just trying to figure out my own truth, how I was showing up in authenticity. And I would say I'm a definite believer of divine timing and just meeting the people who are meant to be part of your journey in some way. I know that you impacted me in a specific way, but you've also written several books and even received recognition for at least one of those literary awards and whatnot. Would you say that your books have helped to encourage those who read them to embrace their authenticity and live their truth as well?
Yeah, and it's surprising when it happens when someone says that. Because so when I write a book, it's usually because I have something in me that I just need to get out. So the book becomes my journal, but at the same time, I'm saying, how can this thing that keeps weighing and pressing upon me, how can I get that out to the people so that it helps them? But usually it's just something that I got in me or something that came and downloaded into me, and I just got to get it out there. Yeah, so I have a book called Holding Hands with Happy. It's 15 exercises that you can do, not all at one time. You can do one a week, you can do one a day, one a month. You can do however you want to work it out. And I gave it to somebody who I was working with. I was actually training her at the time. She was very reserved, but she was an awesome employee. And I can hear her on the phone encouraging the people she was dealing with. But then when she came over to me for training, I was like, where is this person? So I was just talking about my books. I think I had them on my desk at the time. And she said, I'm going to buy this. And I was like, well, that's cool. I saw her walking in the hall one time, and she had, like, postcards and different pages of a book and notes, and a highlighter was on it. And I mean, I didn't say anything because I was like, oh, that's my book. You got there reading it. So I didn't say anything. Yeah. So finally, a few months later, I just reached out to everyone that bought the book and asked for a review. When I read the review, it was so touching. She talked about coming out of her shell, trusting people, trusting herself. She talked more. She actually smiled more. She never really smiled. I knew she wasn't mean. It was kind of like, what are you going through? Mm-hmm. And she just said it changed her whole life. Wow. And I said, nobody else gets this book or no one else reads this book. I am happy. So.
Yeah, I love that. I know that you have used a lot of those exercises, a lot of those things that you've written in your books to live your life authentically and to find your true self and show happiness. So, of course, I want you to feel free to drop those titles. We just talked about Holding Hands with Happy. Holding Hands with Happy. What else do you have under your belt?
I have My Choice Not to Choose. That's a book where I talk about coming out and how I dealt with it on a spiritual path. That's when it actually won the award, international award. I have a book that's just affirmations. So if you just open a page and need a good affirmation, it's called Just In Case Shit Happens. I have a book called Excuse Me, I Found Your ID. It's actually a workbook with different exercises for people who kind of, I don't want to say they're lost, but maybe they're trying to figure out who they really are, what they want to do, what's my passion. You know, it's got simple things like, what's your favorite color? Research the color. Figure out why you really like that color.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really, really easy exercise, but it's things that people just don't do. They like, when you start paying attention to why am I so attracted to this color, to this style of clothing, you know, where did this originate? Why is this my favorite food? And you learn about that art, because it's all art. It's all love. You learn about you. So that's a really good book. I like that book.
I'll also drop the names of those titles in the show notes and link where you can find those particular books. So for someone who's still learning how to fully embrace their authentic selves and live in that energy, I think your words can definitely be a catalyst for change, maybe for helping them to shift into their authentic vibration. So are there any particular lessons or takeaways that you want your readers to connect with from your books?
Yeah, that they are loved and love is within them.
It's powerful.
Oh yeah, and you call it God, you can call it higher source, you can call it the universe, you can call it Yahweh, you can call it whatever you want. But I feel like everybody should know that they are loved. Even if they're agnostic and don't believe in God, they're loved by me. So people need to know that. Some people get so down and out, and some people have done some horrible things. Live some terrible lives. They're still loved. They just got to reconnect. You can start over any single moment of your life.
I love that. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't address your other moniker, DarLuz the DJ.
Okay.
So, how'd a self-published author make the shift into DJing? What's the story there?
Actually, music has always been a part of my life, just as much as writing. So even when I was little and writing poetry, when I was 8 or 9 in my room, I was always writing to specific songs that brought out those feelings for me.
Okay.
So after, I guess years and years of being in love with music, I switched my major and decided to go ahead and become an audio engineer. And that was when I was about 22.
Okay. I feel like there's more to the story, though. Again, music is so healing, right? Music is so healing, and I feel like it just helps us in ways that we don't expect or even understand.
Absolutely.
So would you say that there was maybe a moment in your life where music impacted you in some way or just helped you overcome a difficult time in your life journey?
Absolutely. I would say with any hard situation or trauma or joyful situation or joyful memory, there's always been music there. I think you even pointed out one time, you said music holds memories for you, or you remember certain times in your life by songs, which is so accurate. But I think I really, really realized how into music I was when my parents realized it when my brother passed away. So I was about 6, he was 8, and he passed away suddenly. And I guess I went through a dark time, like a depression. And one of the things my parents did is they bought me these little books that had cassette tapes that go along with them. So I could listen to the narrator on the cassette tape. There were certain spots in the books where there were songs. And those songs just brought me so much joy that it kind of just branched from there. And my parents started buying me CDs, and tape recorders. They realized like music is her thing. Brought me a little keyboard.
Okay, she had her own band, y'all.
One-man band.
So definitely so sorry to hear about the loss of your brother, especially being so young.
Yeah.
I'm sure it impacted you and your family in a certain way as well, but it sounds like you took that time, that grief, and kind of used music as the catalyst to move you through and nurture you in some way.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. I love to hear that. So healing, and it's been that catalyst for you, obviously. But why music? You're living in what you feel are your authentic vibrations currently.
I guess for me, it's why not music. My dad was really into music. He collected all the records, all the CDs, all the tapes. He passed one to me. My mom was really into music, even though she might not admit it. Music is one of the things that brought us close together. She's not as obsessed with me, or she's not going to call and jump up and say, hey, did you hear this song by so-and-so? But she's going to listen when I present the song to her, or she's going to go to the concert with me when I invite her. So for me, it's kind of like why not music. I don't really know life without music. Music is just, I can be upset and put on a song and totally let it go. In fact, I remember a time I was driving and I had got some really, really bad news. And it was very painful. It was very painful. And I was driving and I was so hurt and I kept saying, how am I supposed to get through this? I think I was about 19, and then Earth, Wind, and Fire came on in September, which is my favorite Earth, Wind, and Fire song. And I'm in the car and the song came on, and I turned it up. Good song. I turned it up, and all of a sudden I'm vibing, I'm singing, and when it went off, I said, "Oh my God!" I was so like down. I can't believe I just totally forgot about that. 4 minutes when the song was playing, it just hit me just like that. Like, wow, music heals me, and it doesn't have to be lyrical. Honestly, sound heals me. Like I said, I'm an audio engineer at heart. That's what I went to school for. So I can hear certain tones, certain frequencies, water, rain, a waterfall, the breeze, and I can let that just kind of take me away.
Wow, y'all. Real talk, real quick. So she actually nerded out on me on one of our first dates. Some classical music pieces were playing, and I don't know, it just sparked something in her, and she started to go down this whole long like monologue about the composer and like Baroque music and all of this stuff. And this was not my vibration whatsoever. I love music, but not to that degree. Like, that's just not my calling. That's not my ministry, y'all. So I knew in that moment that I was either going to love her like wholeheartedly because of this uniqueness, or I was going to be weirded out because it wasn't my vibration, right? It wasn't something that I was that passionate about in that way. But honestly, it made me feel even more at home seeing her love for this intangible entity that is music, you know? So I knew there was a deeper story to unpack when it came to her and that love of music. So thank you for sharing.
Thanks for asking. Thanks for listening.
So I know your name, DarLuz, means to give light, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've shared so much of your light with us here today. So first of all, thank you. But how do you tap into your lights or that power of light when you're DJing? Do you consciously channel maybe certain vibes into your sets? Like you kind of feel that vibe fits this particular scenario or this particular party or what have you? Or is it more intuitive for you? Do you just kind of feel it in the moment?
I think it's both. I think it's intuitive, and I probably wouldn't have said that 5 years ago. My mom actually brought that to me. I just explained to her one day, I said, I don't know how I came up with these songs, but I feel like they'd be a good fit for this and that, and I feel like I should play at this event. She said, that's just your intuition. That's just you letting God come through. So, one of the things I do before I start a gig, there's so much that I do. So
she preps these gigs, y'all. So if you ever book her, just know there's a lot of thought that goes into what she creates.
So the first thing I do before I even get there, maybe a week or two before I get there, is I try to figure out what vibe does a person, the curator, want. If they haven't said anything, what vibe do I want? How do I want people to feel while they're attending the gig? So if it's an athletic gig, do I want them excited? Do I want them to feel aggressive and feel, engaging? Like, oh, we got to rip this opponent apart.
Okay.
Do I want them to feel relaxed, chill? Sometimes you might have situations where you want people to be able to let out grief. There are DJs that do funeral type events or memorials.
Never would have thought about that.
Yeah. So for me, I think about how I want the person to feel, how I would want to feel if I was attending that event. Once I get to the event, usually I thank my dad because I know he's there with me in spirit. I thank my cousin who I talked to about DJing before. I know he's there with me in spirit. And I really just look at the people. I make eye contact with everyone. I walk around. I don't say, hey, I'm DJ at the event. I say, hey, how you doing? And I get to learn people. I just have a casual conversation with different people. And that really tells me a lot about who's there. Because if you think about it, one thing we all have in common at that very moment is we're there at that event for some reason or another. So there's got to be some common ground. There's something we can discuss or talk about where I can say, oh, okay, you're this type of person. You probably would like this. It's kind of like Pandora. Well, if you like this song, you probably like this. If you like this type of cheese over here, since we're talking about this nice charcuterie spread, you probably like this type of wine, which means you might get into this type of jazz. You know, it's a whole factory working in there.
So definitely a little bit of, I would say, learned skill, because you have that certain music or a certain ear and just vibration for music, but also just that intuitive spirit, that intuitive mindset to read the room, right? To really connect with your audience in a way that you understand what the vibration needs to be, or how you want them to feel in this moment. What energy you want to exude in that moment.
That's perfectly explained it. When I get to the event, what I'm playing the first hour when it's primarily just the staff is probably going to be different than what I play when it's 20, 30, 40 people in the room and now they're talking and chit-chatting. Because the staff needs to relax. They don't need all the noise. They don't need all the banging. They want to be chill. But when the people come in, they're ready to party. Now, this is a totally different vibe for them. But you can't appease everybody at the same time. So it's kind of like going in this order. Okay, the staff got to take care of you guys. So let me make sure the staff is happy. That type of thing. Just
okay.
Yeah. So energy.
Love that. So again, if you hire her or you used her for any of your events, you're going to get a whole curated vibe. So let's get into it. So again, I know that music has played such a huge role in your life. How would you say music has influenced you living authentically? Do you feel that it's a form of self-expression for you? Do you feel that it's something that you use maybe even as a coping mechanism?
Yeah. Well, you know, when you listen to certain music and you're drawn to certain artists, you want to know more about the artists themselves. So I've been drawn to certain artists and I listen to their music, and sometimes I say, okay, this is really a song, but I don't feel it from them. I feel like there's something in that's blocking them from really giving me that feeling of what they're talking about in the song. Just use an example, Janelle Monáe. When she first came out, her first couple of albums, they were good. You could tell she was good musically. She was skilled in instruments. She was skilled in writing. We know she can dance. She's skilled in production. But I always felt like there was something missing. And then I actually had a chance to see her face to face and I felt it.
Awesome story, how she too. If you see her, ask her about it.
But it just felt off. I felt like there's something there that's stopping her from just being joyful and who she really, really was at the core. And then she came out. You know, I said she was part of the LGBT community. And the last two albums were fire. And every verse, every word you hear, you feel that emotion. So when I see that with artists, well, it's a lot harder for them to be authentic because you got the world judging you. Sometimes I think, I ain't got no excuse. I'm not on the platform with the world judging me. I ain't got to work on the record labels breaking up with me. I don't got to worry about shows being canceled. I'm really just getting into this thing, trying to get on a major platform. So why not live authentically? Like, because what they see is what they're going to get. So let me just start this on the right foot so there's no mistake and, no confusion who I am. So yeah, music and watching the artists and hearing, if they sing a song and I listen to an album and it doesn't feel genuine to me, if I go up and play and I'm not playing what I feel in my heart, it's not going to feel genuine to people out there listening.
Yeah. And I could definitely attest to that. I could speak to that energy that she's referring to just when she's not in a good place or something's off, either in the setting, maybe it's the environment. I don't know, but you can always tell when she's maybe a little torn about what to play or how to shift into kind of that play mode. So I could definitely see how that might impact you. Yeah. Or when she's in her head, right? Yeah.
Someone says something to me, trying to start a gig or during a gig. All it takes is that one person to knock you off your game. And I'm in my head and you can feel it. You jumping on the songs. You're not syncing them the way you typically would. I'm not dancing. If I'm DJing and I'm not dancing,
sounds
wrong. Yeah, something wrong.
Y'all leave your DJs alone. Let them curate the vibe because that's what you hired them for.
Yeah.
let the DJ do their thing, right? They make these songs talk about go DJ and the DJ saved my life. Like all of this is for a reason. So let the DJ catch the vibe and bring the energy and the lights to your space.
Trust the DJ.
So you've shared so much with us, and I just have to say it's been great getting to know you more authentically in this way. I mean, of course, I've known you for a very long time, but I feel like it's given our listeners, it's giving whoever is on the other side of that screen a little bit more ear candy, and I would say even more reason to subscribe to your vibe.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Subscribe to my vibe.
So before we close out, we'd love to hear what's been one of the biggest lessons that you learned through your journey of self-discovery and just embracing your authentic self.
Biggest lesson I've learned from my journey of self-discovery: forgive myself. Period. Yeah, if I've hurt somebody's feelings, if I've hurt my own feelings, if I didn't complete a task that I said I was going to, if I've made a mistake, if I just messed up, I gotta forgive myself. Let it go. Let that shit go. Oh my gosh. I think it took me years to learn that. Like, cause I would hold on to stuff from somebody else's pain. Like, it could be a family member who's hurt, and I might feel like I didn't say what I should have said when we were on the phone to help get them out of that slump. And now I'm beating myself up over it.
Yeah.
You know, let it go. I'm doing what I can, the tools I have. I always try to do good things with good intent. So it just not be so hard on myself. Let it go. Forgive myself. I'm sorry, DarLuz.
Y'all hear that? And you heard it from DarLuz herself, the lights herself, bringing us all of the vibes through her energy, her poetry, and her stories. Thank you so much, DarLuz, to Lisa D. Told you I don't know what to call her. It's been an honor, though. It truly has. It's been an honor and a pleasure hosting you in the Authentic Vibrations space today. Tell us, how can we find your authentic vibes, and where can we catch you next?
Okay. You can check me out on Instagram, DarLuz the DJ, on YouTube, DarLuz the DJ, on Facebook, DarLuz the DJ, on SoundCloud, DarLuz the DJ, on Mixcloud, DarLuz the DJ, on Apple Music, DarLuz the DJ, Spotify, DarLuz the DJ.
Y'all hear it?
Google DarLuz the DJ.
Y'all, that sounds like it's pretty easy find there. Where can we catch you next?
St. Pete Pride, the Street Fest, day after the parade on Sunday, last Sunday of the month. And also, what I'm super excited about, the Duran Bernard concert at Janice Live. I will be DJing before his concert.
You hear it. You heard it here first, y'all. So I will post in the show notes, and maybe you'll see me forward, share a couple of her events that are coming up. Make sure you check her out where you can, but I'll definitely share in my show notes for those looking to follow your light, DarLuz.
Appreciate you.
Thank you guys for joining our first candid conversation. I hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to stay tuned for more authentic vibrations. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for upcoming content. Until the next time, y'all. Make sure to check out the show notes for more details on all things DarLuz and how you can follow her light. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube for upcoming content.